Welcome back to Before the First Cast, everyone. Today looks a little different. We have a guest with us, Mr. Billy Kohls. Billy, how's it going?
It is going well, my friend. How are you doing?
Good, good. Can't complain. So we're just going to jump in. Billy, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you came from, what you do.
Sure, sure. So I have not been on a podcast with you guys yet, so I appreciate you throwing me on here and finally getting us together on it. But my name is Billy Kohls. I run a fishing guide business on Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. It's called Smith Mountain Lake Fishing Guide Service. Pretty straightforward. I'm a transplant from Minnesota, all over the kind of southeast, Maryland a little bit, North Carolina, and have been at Smith Mountain for coming up on 5 years now, and run a pretty busy guide business. One of the only two, I think, maybe three guide businesses on the lake currently, and got a bunch of other businesses, man. Tournament fishing, having a 10-month-old baby running around, and just trying to get as much fishing in as I can, and enjoying Smith Mountain Lake.
Yeah, I know how that is. I have a 20-month-old running around, and getting out to fish is nearly impossible.
Yep, it's like one day a week now. So
Yeah, mine's like once a month. So,
yep,
doing a lot.
yep.
But no, you run a very successful guide business down here.
Thanks.
A lot of good content on Instagram, everywhere, really. Facebook, Instagram. And
Yep.
guys, don't let him fool you. He's a hammer here in Swift Mountain.
Lately, not so much, but
Yeah, I mean, you won your fair share of money down here.
sure.
Yeah. So really, Billy, I brought you on to kind of explain kind of what's going on fishing wise at Smith Mountain Lake in November and what it's going to look like these next couple of weeks and this next month.
Yeah. If everybody can just do their Indian dance to bring on the cold, that's really all we're waiting for at this point. Is a little bit of rain would help, of course, to kind of stain up the water, but we really, really need some cold weather. I feel like I've been writing the same fishing report for October through December for the last like 3 years now, where we got low water. It's clear. It's super clear. We haven't really had any substantial rain since that hurricane came in. A little bit of a sprinkle last week. I think we got a little bit of a sprinkle this week, but it looks like our fall's going to end up being kind of another clear water, low water level, and not a lot of stain, not a lot of kind of algae bloom kind of color to it or nothing like that. So that's going to make the bite a little bit more difficult. And then we're seasonably warm again. I fished on Sunday in one of the tournaments, and started the day. I think it was in like 60 degrees on my Garmin, and by the end of the day, it was 64-degree water, which that's never good to see a big temp jump in the fall like that. But you and me were talking before we recorded. I think we're finally turning the corner here in 2 days, where we're going to have nightly lows that are going to be in the low 30s, which is going to plummet that water temperature, and these fish are stacked up where they should be. So I think we're about to have a super good at least next 7 days of fishing here. So
Yeah, so I fished on Veterans Day on last Monday. It was absolutely terrible. It was, we were catching them in like what 40 feet of water on a drop shot. If you have live sonar, you could literally watch them. You can drop your bait right in front of them. They nose down on it and be like, "Nope, not gonna
yeah,
eat." That's the frustrating part for me. I'm like, "Come on now." Um, but let's talk about the water dropping. So if for anyone that doesn't know Smith Mountain Lake, it's on a dam system or a river system that's dammed. Why do you suspect that Appalachian Power, who owns it, keeps dropping the water as much as they are?
yeah. So couple things. One, they have to generate power now, because with nightly lows going into the 40s and stuff like that, everybody's pretty much either not running the heat at all. They're not running air conditioning anymore for sure. But people are definitely probably turning on auxiliary heat at night. So you have power generation. They have to keep it at a lower level, because normally in the fall we get, some sort of precipitation usually. So they're just preparing for that. And then Smith Mountain's the first on the chain. So we're only going to fluctuate, like the biggest change I've ever seen in a day is like a foot, unless we get a crazy amount of rain. or something that's going to really, really make the lake go up, and not maybe not even a foot, maybe like 8 inches
Mm.
up and down. So a lot of that's power generation. A lot of that is them like being proactive and trying to manage all the other lakes down the chain. But they're just doing kind of winter drawdown. Some for the 5 years or so that we've lived here, I think one winter we had 18 inches of snow when we lived up in Roanoke. So if they don't do winter drawdown and there's 2 feet of snow, and that's going to melt into the lake, that's going to raise the lake up. And if they were already at full pond, that's a big issue. So it'll fluctuate a little bit, but unless we're way past hurricane season at this point, so we're not going to get any substantial amount of rain fluctuation. I think we're probably going to stay within kind of where we're at. I'm going to pull the app up right now. I don't even know what we're at right now, but I know it's low-ish. Uh,
Like 3 something ish,
yeah, we're
2.
at 792.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, 792. Basically, average is 793, almost 794. So we're like a foot and a half low. But that's probably not going to change unless we get some sort of crazy water event. So,
So, for those who don't know, what does that do to the fishing if it's the water fluctuates so much?
yep. Yeah. We don't run into stuff necessarily like bugs or like Tennessee River stuff where like, oh, they're pulling water, so the fish are going to stage out and stuff like that. Maybe down on the lower end a little bit that water
Mm-hmm.
fluctuation, but like up the rivers and stuff like that or mid lake, that's not really. I've never seen it be like a holy hell massive differentiator day to day. So a lot of times when the water is going to drop and stay on a consistent drop, it's going to pull fish off of the bank because they're just not getting comfortable with where they need to be. So you'll have a lot of fish suspending off the points or just kind of roaming around on the flats and stuff like that. It needs to stabilize for a little bit for them to get comfortable to go, say, be in like a rock pile in like a couple feet. There's still definitely fish up there, but for there to be a good amount of fish up there, it needs to kind of sit, which looking at the last 7 days, I mean, it's basically staying within a half a foot of what it's been consistently for the last week. So these fish are probably stable to where they feel like they can be up on the bank and stuff like that. But if you are on a lake, whether it's Smith Mountain or somewhere else, and they pull water, it's gonna usually for a day or two pull the fish off and suspend um, and not be the greatest fishing. But we're turning the corner right now at Smith, where a lot of these fish are gonna push up off from being suspended. They're gonna go start looking up on the bank for crawdads and pushing bait in the back of pockets and stuff like that.
So the jig bite's about to get real, real good.
Yeah. Yep. Jig bite, crankbait bite, wobble head,
Mm.
shaky head, anything like that. It's more location based. So a lot of that rock that's in like 0 to 6 feet is going to have some big fish on it here coming up.
So are we getting close to Alabama rig time?
Mm,
Form for
I,
that.
yeah, I threw one on Sunday. They just kind of followed it. I really think, unfortunately, at least for me, I don't throw it very much. But the water's stupid clear, so they're really getting a good look at it. I know a lot of guys smash them up the river, but that's usually like a low 50s
Mm-hmm.
water temperature. I think we're probably 30 days away from that really popping off. Not saying you can't catch them right now in the fall throwing it, but it's pretty tough when the water's 10 foot clear.
So if you look at the tournament results, whether it's the cat series, whether it's, the bass cast tournament, the weights have been pretty good, winning weights wise. I think they had
Mhm.
a 20-pound bag 2 weeks ago at the cat,
Yeah.
and then this last one was 19 that won. Um, I mean, the same guys won 3 of the cat. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, he's on something super consistent. I have no idea what he's on either. I know Mike in passing and just kind of from a few different guys. He's got either a bait dialed in or a presentation speed or something going on. I mean, he's got 19 pounds dialed in,
mhm.
like pretty textbook. So I would think it's a mix between schooler fish and getting a big bite up shallower, but you know, I don't know. I don't really look
Yeah,
for other boats or worry about it too much. there's not enough time in the day to try to figure out what everybody else is doing, but he's definitely got something dialed. I talked to him at one of the, I think the Bass King the other day, and I kind of jokingly asked him, I said, how much longer are your fish going to be around? He said, it's definitely changing pretty quick. So I think
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. It's pretty tough to stay on fish consistently. I think Mike's, I don't know if he's retired or not, but time on the water is the ultimate deal. So if he's spending a decent amount of time on the water and staying on top of them, then he'll probably stay pretty competitive. But I think a lot of stuff's about to change for uh,
Yeah.
a lot of dudes that have been doing that. So I would actually say different, Calvin. Like I think the weights are good as far as the winning weights go, but I would say it's still fishing pretty tough. I know the guys this past Sunday for the cat. I mean, dude, we didn't even catch a me and Will
Right.
didn't catch a limit. I know a bunch of dudes that didn't catch limits. Most dudes had 14 pounds. I mean, when you're talking water temp 60 degrees, you'd think it'd be pretty easy to go catch 15 to 17 pounds, especially at Smith. But Sunday was, super, super tough. Sundays are always kind of tough just because the lake gets, pretty beat up by Friday, Saturday anglers and stuff. So by Sunday, they're pretty used to kind of lures flying over their head or through them and stuff like that. So I think pretty much from the tournaments moving forward, we're going to see that like 20 to 24-pound bags probably going to win it every time.
Yeah, I guess I talked to a few guys that fished the cat this past Sunday, and they were like, it was terrible. They could
Hmm.
get a bite on a shaky head or a jig. I mean,
Yeah.
he was, he told me he was dragging it real slow. I mean, and he said he caught one in like a foot of water, and then he caught one in 25 to 30 foot.
Yep.
So it was all over the place.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a fish till 11:30, and I pick up a crankbait with zero wind and bright blue skies and caught a 4.5 pounder on the second cast. Like stuff that just doesn't really make sense. It's junk fishing still. But I'm a big believer in once you hit the next kind of bracket of water temperature, a lot of stuff's going to change. So I think once we're consistently under 60, these fish are going to go from like kind of wanting to bite to like, oh crap, I actually really need to start eating.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited for. I love a crankbait bite. You
Yep.
can beat it. But so let's segue into some of the baits you would throw November up until probably the beginning.
Yeah, sure. Yep. For me personally, I'm a pretty die-hard crankbait fisherman. I feel like that's probably my strongest deal, right behind just doing the whole live scope deal and minnow fishing. So I'm throwing probably like three different crankbaits. I'll probably have a rock crawler, a wart, and then like a Z2 little crankbait on from Megabass, and just different depth ranges, fish rock, fish a lot of stumps with them, fish a lot of break lines. I'm probably not going to fish much deeper than 10 feet. If it's a windy day, honestly, you can probably just stick a crankbait in your hand for most of the day. And then as soon as we get closer to that 55 range, I'm picking up a jerk bait a lot. So that's just going to be a Vision 110,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a +1. Again, you're fishing in that like 10 foot or less range. Um, I don't throw a spinnerbait a ton, but this is probably going to be the next like 30 days on a windy day where you would want to throw it. There's definitely some bait in the back of some of the pockets that has predatory fish all over in the bait balls. So, a little three bladed spinner bait, or maybe even doing a heavier spinner bait with smaller blades is a good play. I throw a blade bait a lot in the early fall, again through the bait balls and stuff like that. Top water stuff's going away, and then really on those slower days, I'm either throwing a jig like a missile baits micro jig maybe with a Ned on the back or something that you can just like bomb around on 7 pound line, or I'm throwing a shaky head with, I like a speed craw and a shaky head just because it's got so much flap to it. But as we get closer to that mid 50s range, then I'm probably gonna go back down to something that's a little bit less movement and just kind of a, I don't know, stick craw bait, something that doesn't move a ton. maybe some Elastec stuff just to kind of like leave it in place. So,
Yeah, how do you feel about an underspin
um,
or Okashira spin?
yeah, I throw in Okashira a ton. When they're looking up, it's really good. So, like, if you have schooling fish that are suspended and they're only like 10 feet under the surface, you can reel that super fast under the surface, like 2 inches under the surface, and get some bites. Um, I've never really cracked the underspin deal. I had one like really good August month where it worked. One of the first years I lived here, where I caught like a bunch of 5 pounders, dragging it on the bottom, doing like the click in the bottom thing with it. But throwing it through schoolers and stuff like that, I don't know if Smith Mountain fish are just so used to those blades because they've seen a spinnerbait for 50 years.
Right.
Um, I've never seen it outperform, say, just like a regular swim bait. So not really something I'm super confident with. But I'm sure with there being bluebacks in here, like I'm sure the underspin Casey Ashley thing probably works for somebody.
Yeah, I was thinking about trying it, and I was like, I'm not really confident in this.
Yeah.
I'm more of a finesse guy. I'll drag a shaky head all day. I did not
Yep.
think the crawl aspect on them. I started experimenting with a little bit of the slider head or the slider jig
Yep.
head.
Yep.
Um, I haven't really caught on to it yet, or haven't gotten a bite on it yet. So we'll
Yeah.
keep throwing it to see what goes on there.
Yeah, it's a good design to throw a worm. But yeah, dude, I throw I mean honestly, I don't throw a shaky head worm for this month. I'm gonna stick with the crawbait on there for the most part. A lot of people don't necessarily know that the crawdad actually burrow for the year, so that's why we have a really good like shallow like 10 foot or less bite. That's going to be going on in November. Is a lot of the rock and stuff are going to have crawdads around in them. So throwing that speed craw or throwing honestly, you can pick pretty much any craw profile bait that's in that like 3 inch range.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of what I've been throwing is the speed crawl and green pumpkin on the slider head, just
yep,
dragging it.
yep, yeah. Something that's got a little bit of kick to get their attention is solid. And then on those post front days like Sunday was, I mean, I don't know, dude. It's fishing so frustrating when it's every 24 hours. It feels like you gotta change something or try something. And when you think they weren't eating the crankbait, they are, and the conditions change. And it's like, okay, well, this is the best crankbait weather, and then you don't catch one. It's funky.
So going back to the crankbait, are you burning it or just a steady retrieve?
I'm just looking for deflections. So I'll go down to even 8 pound line on a crankbait rod if that means that I can get a bait an extra 2 feet,
Hmm.
um, just to have it get a little bit more of a deflection. But pretty much just a constant reel, and then once you get your deflection, you just kind of pause for a second. Think like a crawdad running around. If you watch underwater videos of a crawfish, when they jump up off the bottom, they kind of have like a pause to their swim. And that's really all you're seeing is deflecting off of a stump or a rock or a hard spot or something like that with that.
So let me dive a little deeper because I'm a crankbait head as well. What colors are you seeing work best this time of year? Your crawfish colors or
Yeah. Yeah, you want a little bit of orange in there because I'm just a firm believer there's always a little bit of orange probably on a crawdad.
hmm
It might only be the end of their pinchers by a quarter inch, but it's enough to get a bass's eye. So lots of browns, lots of greens. A little bit of a blue hue is not a bad idea if you got a little bit of stain and stuff like that. Phantom green, phantom red are pretty standard work colors
Yep.
to go with. Megabass has their green crawdad color that's really good. It's kind of got like a little bit of like a mustard yellow belly to it, but anything that's got that brown look to it is fine. I mean, these crankbaits are moving pretty fast by their face, so
hmm
do I think they're getting a great look at it? No.
Most
But
of the time, slapping it.
yeah, yeah, a lot of the time. Well, that's how you know, like for example, on like let's just say a wiggle wart. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, dude, you'll know when you have the right color because they're gonna gag it. It's gonna be so far down their throat that you're like, there's no chance they're coming off. And then if they're back hooking a crankbait, something's going on. Either the retrieve's not right, or you're not fishing it the right way for them to get that exact reaction that you need them to get. So that's just a slight adjustment stuff.
Yeah, and the one bait I didn't hear you say, which I'm kind of surprised, is the drop shot. I was waiting on it, but I didn't hear it. Uh, are you throwing?
Um, Yeah, you could still drop shot. Once again, dude, 50, like 60 to 55s, in my opinion, is like the best water temperature to catch big ones because I think everything is ready to eat. Once you
Hmm.
get below 55, you have to worry about stuff like how fast is your jerk bait fishing and are you fishing the jig slow enough and stuff like that. But that 55 to 60, I feel like they're still warm enough where they're going to chase stuff down. Um, Dude, I've gotten away from the drop shot a little bit, which is probably really stupid, but I guide so much and have them throw a drop shot almost exclusively. I mean, it's not even a question. There's people throwing a drop shot every single day in my boat, as well as a shaky head and a 2.8 Kitech and stuff like that. That when I finally get to go fish for myself, I probably literally am just putting my foot up my ass by not picking up finesse stuff, but I'm just so kind of just burnt out of that bite and fishing those piles and drops and stuff that I want to go throw a big bait or crank or do something else. So
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta. I became a believer in the drop shot, but deep fishing is not my game. I
sure.
do it. There's certain guys I fish with it. That's what they want to do, and I'm like, okay.
Yep.
You
I mean,
tell me.
it catches fish, man. I just don't know that I mean, I've won some tournaments on only throwing the drop shot, but November time frame to say like, hey, I'm just gonna go throw a drop shot and win it on a drop shot's pretty tough.
Hmm.
When you know there's a potential of like a jig bite or a crankbait bite, because those are gonna get your bigger bites every time.
Yeah. There was another bait I wanted to ask you about. What about a glide bait? What
Yeah, glide bait stuff. I don't really have the patience for it. Like, for example, it's supposed to blow on Thursday. I'm going to go fun fish for myself just for memento day for the week. I'll probably have a glide on Thursday. Slick, calm conditions. It's tougher. Again, clear water. Like, if you are going to throw a glide, try to pick something that's probably a little bit more natural looking than say like pure white. Or cream. Like I got a lot of glides that are custom painted that look like shad and stuff like that. So it's a good time because there's definitely some fish moving back on docks, and you can definitely find some fish in the bait balls to bite a glide. But that's another one of those things like an A rig, man. Like if you fish a glide for 10 fishing days, maybe you're only going to get a bite on the glide like 3 of the 10 days. Like it's cool to see them come out and dart at it and look at it and see how big some of the fish are in here. But I want to go catch them.
mm,
And if they're not going to bite it that day, then I put it back in the box.
right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss, especially
Yep.
you don't see it a lot at Smith, believe it or not. You see more of your mag drafts and
Sure.
soft hollow body swim baits at Smith.
Yeah.
Um, so segueing a little bit from baits you would use, where are you looking for fish these in these kind of transition periods and when the
Yep.
drops?
So everyone that fishes Smith should have the SML Plus app because it's got gauges all up and down the lake. I would tell you that it's not necessarily specific sections of the lake. I would base it on water temperature. So just keep in your head that like, okay, let's say Craddock's 63 degrees. Well, Magnum's up the Blackwater might be 61, and that's a pretty big temperature change, and how fish would react and where they would be positioned. Like 64 degrees, there's probably still fish offshore chasing, bluebacks. There's maybe some fish on secondaries where if you ran up the Blackwater and say it's 61 degrees, or in the morning, let's say it's even 59, those fish are going to be in completely different positions, compared to fish that are in that 60 degrees. So for me, I'm pretty much after these 30s coming in, I'm not going to worry about offshore fish. There's not really going to be like a Demiki bite that's going to be consistent or anything yet. It's going to be shallow, burning a ton of fuel, trying to hit like very isolated rock. Um, you know, isolation is really, really important when it comes to fall fishing, like jig fishing and crankbait fishing. Like some of the biggest fish I've ever caught are literally on one boulder that's
Mm,
on a bank. And that's just from time on the water. Like I have specific spots marked that I know it's like a boulder that's the size of the front deck of the boat. And you'll have to pitch a jig at that 5 times before you get a bite. But there's a 6 pounder that lives on that rock like for the next 2 months. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm targeting is pretty isolated things if I can help it. If it's a day like Thursday where hopefully it blows like they say it's supposed to blow, just find a windy bank and go down a break line. There should be fish pretty much on anything that like 0 to 10 foot range that's got rock around it, that's getting hit super hard by the wind. So that's what's nice about the fall fishing, man. Like even with a jig, you can cover water pretty fast. But if you can put a crankbait in your hand and just put the trolling motor on 8, you can cover a pretty good portion of Smith Mountain, to figure out, are they on the main? Are they halfway back? Are they all the way back? And after that, it's pretty repeatable. So not trying to
yeah,
curse it because I'm going Thursday to have fun, but I feel like Thursdays I shouldn't be super hard to crack 20 pounds on Thursday.
yeah. I mean, and if you look further down the during the week, Saturday looks fairly similar. It's going to blow,
Yep.
supposedly blow. The
Yeah,
weather,
Thursday to Sunday looks really good, and then I think there's a break, and then I think Monday's windy again, and Tuesday's windy again. So,
yeah. And in the fall, I've always been told to chase the wind, but
mhm.
you know, sometimes that could hurt you too. But I'm chasing the wind. I don't care what anybody
Yep,
tells. Um,
sure.
but so, what banks are you looking for with a crankbait? Are you looking 45 bluffs or just trying to figure out where they are?
I mean, dude, it can literally be anything in the fall. That's the thing is a lot of these. So this is where we say like the transition is going to happen fast. So all these fish basically for the last month with unseasonably warm weather are just stalled out.
Hmm.
They're just sitting on points and secondaries, literally waiting for the water temperature to change. And that's the part that's frustrating with, say, like live scope and a blueback lake like we have here is like these fish are just suspended, just sitting there waiting, and the bite window is really short, and they're just kind of following baits all day. Like you have to go find those aggressive fish that are like actually transitioning and on the move. But what's going to happen is every single couple nights, like let's say every 3 nights that it's in 30 degrees, that water temperature is going to continuously drop and drop and drop. It might only need a 1 or 2 degree temperature change from Monday to Saturday for fish on a secondary point to peace out and go find the closest rock vein, or find the chunk rock that's in the back of the pocket, or some fish will go the opposite direction and go back out onto bluff, like the bluff point going in.
Right.
So I'm checking all of them to start. A lot of the shallow, like flat stuff on Smith Mountain, you wouldn't crank like up on the flat. You would crank the brake line,
Hmm.
kind of that like 6 to 10 foot range where it turns green. But for me, like for Sunday, dude, I mean, we had fish in 0 feet of water that were around bait that would eat a buzz bait, and we had fish that were 60 feet deep that would eat a top water. So, and we ran,
Crazy.
yeah, I mean, we just ran around like crazy. So there's fish everywhere right now. It's probably going to be the next 7 to 10 days is going to clear out the schoolers pretty good, and that should get stuff going pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. We really haven't got where they're chasing bait into the back of pockets yet. And
It took me a week, and I only had 4 pockets, with bait and fish in them. So,
yeah, yeah, my fishing partner went out, I think last Saturday. He said I only caught four, and they were small. Like, and he was like, I don't know how it's gonna go. I said, just wait. The weather's gonna change. It's gonna get.
yep,
Um, but we're like river rats. Like we love fishing the shallow, cranking up mud and everything else. So deep game is not our game. So, but
yep. It's an annoying deal, dude.
yeah, and being Smith so clear, or clearer than most, it's hard to like dial in that shallow bite, especially when they've seen everything. Probably
Mhm.
that lake's so pressured.
Yeah.
But no, that's kind of what my mindset was going in Saturday to see go shallow and not leave a crankbait out of my hand. So, and I
Yeah.
have a rock crawler in my hand for sure. Uh,
Sure.
Shout
Good
out John.
bait.
Um, but no, I'm that was a really good fishing report. I'm glad we got to do this tonight.
Yeah, man.
Gave me some insight. I'll probably be texting you on Thursday, like you catch them, like catch one.
Well,
Oh,
honestly, dude, I've been terrible, terrible about posting to social media because I mean, I've been fishing like once a week for fun, and most of that time, honestly, has been like I need to find fish. So I've just been scanning and stuff. So I haven't posted to social in a while. I've had 4 or 5 people reach out being like, "Are you okay?" Um, I just guiding got a little bit slower earlier this year, and we had a super busy wedding schedule, so I didn't get to fish many of the cats and go out and kind of practice and stuff. So, and then unfortunately, I'm fishing Thursday for fun, and then I have a guide trip next week on Monday, and I'm gone for 8 days in Minnesota, and so yeah,
yeah,
my social presence isn't the normal pace that it is right now, but I'll post on Thursday.
yeah. Let's segue to that. Where can the listeners and viewers find you?
Yep. So website, smithmountlakefishing.com. Super straightforward. There's some cool stuff on my website. I have a bait shop listed in there that I list a bunch of different seasonal times and baits that I would recommend that go directly to a tackle warehouse deal. That you guys can just order those baits right from there. If anybody has questions on any of those, they can shoot me an email. Instagram is Billy_Kohls fishing. And then Facebook, same thing, Billy Kohls Fishing. YouTube's the same, Billy Kohls Fishing. And otherwise, I'm sure you'll do a link or something on this. And if not, they can just look up smithmountlakefishing.com and get all the info in there.
Yeah, we will like and share it, and we'll blast it out. Anything we can do to get your name out there. I know you're
Cool.
well known around here, but
Sure.
listening in other areas that want to book a
Yeah.
guide that have never been here, definitely recommend you. So, anybody you want to thank while we're on here? I like to do this at the end of the show just to
Sure.
show appreciation to people that help you.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I have a couple fishing sponsors that I always like to thank. I've been with Dobbins Rods for a super long time. They've just got acquired by GSM, but everything's been smooth transition with them. So I don't see me not working with them at all for any reason. I got on with Megabass last year. Everyone should obviously know that Megabass makes quality, and that's what my guide trips are about, trying to use high quality stuff. Um, SML Tackle Shack down at the lake, Keith. If you guys are in the area or driving through or anything like that, go to their new location at the East Lake side. It's kind of tucked away a little bit, but try to show some love in the off season because I know tackle shops can kind of.
Awesome. And yeah,
Yep. And then Missile Baits, John hooks it up, to most of us local guys. So I throw a lot of his baits for guide trips. And then I just dropped a video for all my non-fishing related sponsors on my YouTube stuff a month ago, but I got a landscaping company, mitigation company, roofing company. All of those guys have been guide clients for a long time, and yeah, helped me out for the year. And yeah, anybody that books a trip, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody kind of wanting to pick me to, learn a little bit more about fishing, and hopefully doing podcasts like this and stuff gets people to get some bigger bites and catch more fish. That's always my goal, man.
yeah. Guys, he also loves to do. He loves to speak to groups. He spoke to
Yep.
a high school fishing team. They loved it. They learned so much. You also do, or you did a seminar at can't remember what it's called. I was there.
Yeah, the Westlake, what big Westlake
Yep.
Church.
He
Yep.
also do seminars. I mean, yeah, definitely. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you have a super busy schedule with have a baby,
Sorry
but
to yawn a couple times, bro.
yeah. But no, we will definitely share you up. Send a link out and stuff like that. But I do
Cool.
really appreciate you coming on for the first cast. I hope to have you on again.
Yep.
And if we see you on the water, I'm gonna steal some baits out of your boat. Just saying. But
Yep.
no, I appreciate it. And for this episode, I appreciate you giving us the juice for Snow Mountain Lake. If you have any questions, comments, definitely link them in the description or in the comment section. I don't know why it's a description. But before the first cast for tonight, we're out. Thank you and have a great night.
Thanks, bud.